No, it's background music. Okay. Oh, never mind. I am live. Whoops. Interesting. Okay, hello and welcome everyone to the 19th anniversary Boktai race. Um, my name on stream is Coachman, and on Twitch I'm Casino Coin. Uh, and yeah, I'm here to commentate for you guys. Boktai, an interesting series of games from creator of the Metal Gear series, Hideo Kojima. Sort of like a combination between Castlevania and Metal Gear, and it kind of plays similar to Metal Gear Ghost Babel, the Game Boy Color Metal Gear game. You get to use stealth and the power of the sun to destroy your enemies. The evil undead and their immortal leaders, who are not so immortal when you blast them with sunlight. Now, the runners here have just started, and you can see the gameplay. They're moving around on an isometric perspective. In the bottom right, you can see the sunlight bar. It's up to runner's choice what their sunlight is. I believe they're all using the sunlight patch, which is another thing to note about this game, is that it used actual sunlight and had a sunlight sensor that sensed how much the intensity of the UV rays from the sun. So you can use a UV lamp, or you can have sunlight through the sunlight patch, which allowed you to manually change the level of sunlight in the game. Now so if you ever look at a Boktai cartridge, it looks pretty funky. It's got a little solar sensor sticking out the back. Now, so our players have entered the first kind of awkward room, which is the bat room. Now, the bats are random. So whether or not you can actually get them and like get rid of all of the bats quickly so that you can actually pull the coffin is dependent on just luck. So that can be very, very, very slow part. Once you clear the bats, you grab the coffin and you're dragging it out. Now this is one of the main mechanics of the game. Is the idea really is that you're supposed to defeat the immortals that lead the undead, and then you're supposed to purify them with the holy light of the sun. So you get to do the more unfortunate and mundane aspect of purifying the immortal, which is dragging the coffin to the purifier. Now, I'm not sure. Let me see here. Doesn't look like Shenef's doing it. It doesn't look like any of them are doing it. There's a mechanic you can do here where Django takes a step, slow steps when he's carrying the coffin. If you hit the directional button again after he takes a step, you can actually cancel the animation and go a little bit faster. But I don't see any of the players doing it here. But oh no, it looks like Shenef's doing it there. It's a little bit faster. You save a little bit of time for doing that, but it's a bit hard on your hands. Now Doc is approaching the pile driver, which is the purifying unit. So the intensity of your sunlight, and you can see he set his sunlight to maximum. The intensity of your sunlight changes the amount of damage that you do with the pile driver. So you'll want to be getting the Immortal's health bar down. to 0, and then that'll be it for the first area, the Fog Castle. First immortal here is kind of a fake, so doesn't have any real attacks during the purification sequence. This category, slap percent, is a category where we're going to finish off the Count, which is the first real immortal that you're supposed to fight. And then you purify him, and then you go talk to Lita, the Earth Maiden, and she's supposed to teach you how to plant some solar nuts, because you're supposed to be able to plant stuff in the ground and then come back later, and it will have grown into a full plant, and then you can use that to get some items. But if you just keep discarding the item that she gives you to plant, she gets mad and she'll slap you. So that's our goal here. Okay, so the players are moving on to the second dungeon. This is the small cave. There's some tight movement in here to avoid being seen. So, like the Metal Gear games, it's important to avoid. Oh wow, am I still on? Oh no, no. So it's important to avoid being seen, because you have a rank at the end of every dungeon, which you might have seen for the first area there. So that rank is very important, because when you finish a dungeon, you will get bonus items. Now, the bonus items can be things like speed nuts, which let you run faster, or bananas, which let you carry the coffin faster. And that's all dependent on your rank, what items you get. So it's very important that the players are looking for they're looking for high ranks in these first few dungeons, because the rewards are very useful. Boss of the first small cave dungeon is another bat room. Looks like Shenef got quite a good bat pattern, so he's doing pretty good there, and he got some speed nuts. So you can immediately see the difference with the speed nuts, where Shenef's running at it's like triple speed. It's crazy. This guy's going like out of his mind. He's going crazy. He's going fast. Slap percent is run on a new save, yes. So in the second dungeon, kind of glossed over it. You pick up a key. This is a common mechanic to most dungeons. You're gonna want to just pick up some keys and stuff, and to get through locked doors. It's basically like key cards for Metal Gear again, if you could think of it like that, I guess. But they're unique to the dungeon, so you only use it for the one dungeon. Another S rank for Shenef. That's very good. You get a lot of bananas, which you won't use in next dungeon, but you will use those bananas for pulling the Count's coffin. So the players are now approaching the Ancient Forest. Rank is not important in the Ancient Forest, since this is one of the few dungeons where there's absolutely no items that you get from it. And I think they'll be picking up the spear frame, which I didn't mention it when they picked it up in the first dungeon, but they got a different frame for their gun. So the shot pattern that comes out of your gun is dependent on the frame that you have equipped. And so the pattern that they got from the first dungeon was it's like a spreader pattern. And then the one that they just picked up in the ancient forest is the spear frame. Now the spear frame is pretty it's pretty powerful. It's a very powerful damage, but it's only extremely short range. So you'll have to stand right next to your opponents uh, to deal damage to them. And it looks like Doc's finished Ancient Forest first. And he's zooming on to the first Immortal Dungeon, which is the only dungeon that we'll be finishing here. So you can see your kind of a mascot character, Otenko. He sets up the pile driver for you. Right, another sort of puzzle type that you'll see in Boktai is pushing blocks. You can actually destroy those blocks later if you get the fire element, although we won't be able to see that here. But you will be able to see box destruction in the second race. Uh, so bananas also assist with pushing blocks. They make pushing blocks faster. So that's another good use for them here, and you would be surprised at the amount of time it saves just pushing blocks a little bit faster. So it doesn't necessarily matter for this category, but there is risk of overheat. I believe you can get overheat in the second game. You're more likely to get it in the second game. But basically, if you have sunlight, like intense sunlight on the cartridge for too long, it'll give you an overheat warning, which basically just tells you to get out of the sun, and your gun stops working while it's overheating. So that's not good. In the second game, if you overheat, I believe you faint or something. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to that race. The players just encountered a mummy that's a deaf enemy that can't, or sorry, not deaf. It's a blind enemy. Not the other one. It's it's blind. It can only hear you, so you have to lure it with sound. And then here's a number puzzle Shenef is doing now. I believe Doc just went through it. I didn't see the numbers. I think Shenef got a 5. So the courtyard in this dungeon has several numbers. I think you can have 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9. Depending on which number you get, when you're pulling the coffin, it'll be much faster if you have a 3 or a 9 or an 8, something where you can go on the right side. If you get a 5, which I believe Shenef got a 5, I think that might just be the worst pattern, which is a little unfortunate for him, but it's not an extreme time loss, but it's a little unfortunate because essentially you just want to go down the right side of the number, but sometimes you can't do that. Oh, it looks like Ixtran also got a 5. Yeah, so a little unfortunate there. Yes, and so the puzzles, another sort of mechanic are these switches, right? That are like weight switches, and so you can disable enemies by putting them on the weight switch. or rather, you can disable enemies by shooting them, and then you put them on the wait switch to use them as like a block, basically. Um, so some interesting solutions here. They're using the solar frame, which is sometimes dangerous. Or I think Doc used solar frame, which is sometimes dangerous, and Shenif used Luna frame. Or not Luna frame, but Luna lens. The lenses are your elements in this game, so you can have fire, ice, Luna, cloud, and you use different elements, can do different damage to different enemy types, and they have different properties when interacting with stuff like boxes. Luna doesn't do any damage, so it's useful for pushing an enemy onto a switch without killing it. Okay, so Doc is just getting to the first fight here with the Count. He's going to use some grenades to deal. Once he's dealt a little bit more damage, he's going to try and get the Count to run into a sunbeam. And when he gets... Oh, it looks like he's actually almost just getting him straight up. Oh, no. There we go. Countdown for Doc. And countdown for Shenif. And Ixaran making his final approach. So they've rescued Lita from the Count. And then they'll have to pull the coffin all the way back to the pile driver. Which means they've got to go all the way back through the whole castle. But bananas make pulling the coffin much faster. Now you can still do the animation canceling trick with the bananas, but I wouldn't recommend it because the regular animation canceling trick gives you enough carpal tunnel, but this is like double carpal tunnel. But it is still slightly faster. I think it has a very small frame window, so yeah, very difficult. Now, normally you would be going for rank, so being seen in the cast would be not so good, but for this category, because it's a partial game category, it's okay to be seen for the most part. Ixaran is now getting through his count fight. I'm not sure. Oh, there you go. Countdown for the for Ixaran. And yep, just pulling back through, pulling the count back through the basement. You might have noticed it with the first coffin, but so there's a mechanic here where, and you'll probably see it on this screen for Doc, where the coffin will begin shaking. Yeah, so he basically begins shaking and freaking out. You can shoot the coffin to make it calm down faster, but if you're carrying the coffin while it does that, it'll knock you back. So very annoying. You want to avoid the downtime the most here. Oh, it looks like Doc actually got a good pattern. This is either a 3 or an 8, or possibly a 9. He's got a quick path back, but unfortunately, Shenif is going to have to go all the way around the 5 to get back. The players, Ixaran just passed by. There's another thing you can do here where you can put the coffin on a lift and have it go down on the lift, but it's generally slower if you have bananas to pull the coffin. so you typically avoid that. Doc is approaching the purification here. He's got the pile driver all powered up. Now the count is a little different from the initial immortal, which was a fake. And instead, the count actually will attack you. So you gotta dodge his attacks and move around. Generally, I find the best pattern for this is to just go left and right uh, to dodge the count's attacks. But it looks like Doc's got the count purified. So now all he's got to do is get slapped. Nope. Shenif getting stuck a little bit. Ixaran's making his way. All right. So when you use an item, and it gives you the countdown for how long the item lasts, the item does not decrease at all when you're in a cutscene. So here, Doc's discarding the nut, and Lita's like, "Oh, you lost a nut? Here, I'll give you another one." And then you lose it again, and she's like, "Okay, don't lose it again." And now she's starting to get pissed off. Getting ticked off. Oh, and there it is. Slaps you and for half your life, and then tells you to, will you just plant this? All right. So that's finished for Doc. And he's our first. He's the winner there. Shenef's approaching his slap. So unfortunately, Ixaran also got I believe, a 5. We had to take the long path back, which was unfortunate. Oh, and there's the slap for Shenef. Oh, did I miss the slap? I guess you can just keep getting slapped. Well, after all, it is slap for 10. Now, Lita will not kill you with the slap, but I believe she'll reduce you to 1 HP. Alright, so Duran now approaching. Well, now he's doing the count purification. Mechanic I didn't quite mention is so basically the immortal will resist the purification, so they'll slowly turn the pile driver off. You can't actually deal damage to the immortal directly, so if you shoot the coffin, what it does is it reverses their resistance to the pile driver, and you basically just want the pile driver to stay powered up to deal the damage. Alright, Ixaran finished his count purification. And he's just gotta go get slapped. Oh, you died from slaps? No, no, no. I'm sure you can't do that. Here we go. And that's time for run. All right. So GG's to our racers here, and congratulations to Doc for the win. I'm not sure how we get set up for the second race here, but see if we can do that. Okay. I think I hit this. Oh, I should have, oops. Well, I'm gonna have to ask for help. Okay. Yeah, I guess we could do runner interviews. How do I do this now? I'm gonna want to... How do I... Oh god. This person... What the heck? I'm gonna disappear briefly, see if I can collect the runners for a runner interview, since I'm having trouble setting up the next race. So. Oh, hello? Thanks around. Oh, yeah, I guess we do have 15 minutes till the next race is supposed to be scheduled. Okay, well, hello, gentlemen. So, how was the race? Hmm.
Sorry, I was having mic issues.
Yeah, so how was the race?
Let's say it was.
Um,
Sorry, I was having mic issues.
yeah, so how was the race?
Let's say it was pretty wild.
This is the voice you're hearing is Doc, the winner of our three-way slap percent race.
Hello, everyone. I'm Doc. Well, to keep it simple, I'm the manager of the, or rather, one of the manager of Tao Networks, Boktai speedrun community.
Congratulations on your win. And, so, what did you think of the race?
Honestly, I'd say it went pretty well. Actually, might have even figured some possible new strats from this.
Oh, cool, that's
Uh,
good.
yep, it was it was pretty interesting, and it was very close as well.
Yes, it was very close. Shanna finished 7 seconds only after. So, very, very close. Ixaran, I don't know if your mic is working or if there's some kind of issue there.
No, it should be working.
Okay, there we go. So, any thoughts from you on this on this race?
I mean, thoughts for me is I need a little more practice. I should have got more practice in. But Doc and Jeff had a great race. They were really close from what I was seeing while I was racing. And it's always fun to have the community out, just to get together and show off Boktai.
Yes, I saw it was quite unfortunate. Shenif and you, Ixaran, I believe, both got a 5 for
Yeah, we both got
the
5.
yeah, which is a little unfortunate.
Yeah, I thought
So
it
it's
was.
a lot of bad luck.
Yeah, not the best number to get.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you guys feel about your count fights?
Well, mine was interesting actually. Well, normally we only use 3 grenades for this in 1%. So I won't allowed and used all 4, and I feel like it kind of messed up my pattern, and it did not help that my movements, well, pretty much messed up the pattern even more. But I almost killed it only with the sword, which is interesting. That's pretty rare.
Yes, I saw you almost entirely avoided using the sunbeam to kill the count, which is yeah, pretty rare. Usually when he gets to about half health, just decides that he wants to suck your blood, and he goes in for the close range attack, but he didn't do that.
Yeah, I had the same problem.
Yeah, you both got quite low then, eh? Yeah, and then he just, I don't know. Sometimes I guess he just doesn't want to do it.
No, it's weird.
Yeah, sometimes it's just not bound to happen.
Hawkman executable 6. Oh wow. Yes, and one of the reasons why we were so excited to showcase Boktai and get it out there a little more too is the release of the Battle Network connection, which has connectivity with Boktai. I believe that is.
Awesome.
And well, basically, for those that don't know, so the Mega Man Battle Network games, 4, 5, and 6 had a lot of Boktai contents in them. They had battle chips. Some of them had side quests, and Battle Network 5 and the Japanese version of Battle Network 6 had what's called crossover mode, which lets you play against a Boktai player. Basically, you fight Enter the Count or Shademan, depending on which game it is, on both sides. First one to kill the enemy wins. It's pretty interesting. It's something I definitely recommend trying if you get the chance. It's really, really good, and I wish more games would do that.
Yeah, so hopefully get more people interested in the Boktai series with Battle Network as an introduction, I guess. I believe the quest in 4 is you purify Shade Man, an analog for the vampires in this game.
Yeah. It's actually interesting that this side quest is in Battle Network 4, and then you only do like the crossover fight in 5.
I know. Having some... Can't seem to... Maybe it's this page. I tried to switch back to the other layout here. I don't understand. Well, I think we should probably get set up for our next race. But congratulations to both runners on a great race.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and good job getting slapped. You might even say this game slaps. All right, I think that'll be enough of that. Yeah, so I can't figure out how to get this to switch to the in-between screen, but keep going. But if you guys want to go back to the race, if you guys want to go back to the race room in the...
Alright. I guess we'll do that for now.
Get ready.
Alright.
Oh dear. Okay, and we're back for the second race. This is now Boktai 2, married percent. So the idea with married percent is if you talk to Lita enough times after you get to meet her in Boktai 2, you can get her to have a little heart in her dialogue box. So the idea is we're gonna go for we're gonna try and get that happening. Now, not sure if I can. Let's see, it's about 4 seconds, and that's about 1 second. See if I can sync the runners here. But so the intro area, there's not much to talk about on doing stuff. Pretty standard opening area. Oh, okay. So this Metroid will get desync, so I don't have to worry about it. That's good. All right, so Boktai 2, you meet this vampire early on in the game, who, important plot details follow on that one, but essentially, he steals your solar gun, or yeah, he steals your solar gun pretty much, and now you got nothing. You're punching things to death, so that's not so good. So you no longer have access to your solar gun. So you can't use the power of the sun for much right now. You gotta punch things. So this game uses a different kind of system for the combat, where, in essence, because you don't have the solar gun, you're gonna be attacking things with weapons. So you pick up and find weapons and use those to attack, and you coming up, you'll be getting a enchantment system for that. But there are a lot of major changes made to the systems in Boktai 2 versus Boktai 1. So whereas Boktai 1 was more of like an kind of an action game, there were leveling mechanics for the lenses, but not really a whole lot of RPG mechanics. Boktai 2 is just a straight action RPG. This is definitely an action RPG. When you level up, you actually have assignable stat points. Weapons have variable damage, like depending on the weapon, and then you can forge new weapons that have more. And you can actually see the damage values that you are getting when you hit enemies. You can see it on Chef and Drakaden screens. They get there's actual damage values when you attack enemies. So is definitely more of an actual RPG. There's weapons, sure, but there's also armor. So players will be picking up some armor, which reduces damage, but can also slow you down depending on the weight of the armor. That's actually a factor. Speed nuts no longer work the same because you actually have an actual speed stat, which determines how fast you run, and there's a strength stat, which determines how fast you pull on the coffin. So things are quite different. Bananas still work, like bananas and speed nuts still work, but what they do is they essentially just set that value, speed or strength, to maximum. So, like temporarily. So it's a little different, but the game plays sort of similar. And now you see the players are getting their enchantment system. So essentially, what this allows you to do is, because you don't have the solar gun, you can instead use solar power for the enchantment system, which allows you to use solar power to power your weapons. So you can do things like your weapons get fire element or your weapons get solar element. And some enemies don't die permanently unless you kill them with an enchanted weapon. Like skeletons will not die permanently. They'll dissolve and leave a skull on the ground, but they won't die permanently unless you kill them with an enchantment on your weapon. It's with solar magic. So, oh, interesting. Just fix this first. So yeah, management of sunlight is important, and levels are actually a lot more important as well.
Test it.
Yes. So they'll be killing specific enemies here and there, trying to get level ups, because the strength value also affects your damage with weapons. So having the correct strength value is very important. We'll try and expand this. Okay. All right, just fixing the Dracodon's timer to be a bit wider. Right, so the goal of this category is to get the heart text, but another important part of it is you have to go and finish the cathedral, which is the first dungeon in the game. So players will be heading to the cathedral. Now swords are a good quick weapon, but there are more weapon types. So like hammers, spears, and things like that. So they'll be grabbing these weapons, and each weapon has different properties as well. So swords you can just use to kill stuff with, but hammers you can use to actually break wooden blocks, and I think stone blocks as well. So they'll be picking up the hammer to help them solve some puzzles using those blocks. I believe Dracodon's just getting the hammer now. And then he'll be heading into the underground area of the cathedral in order to actually get inside. This is going to require going through a graveyard. And the graveyard, you have to interact with some tombstones to get in there. But it was inaccessible before because you couldn't break the wooden block without the hammer. So. Yeah, so you get into the underground, and then there's some more puzzles. There's a dog in the graveyard, and the dog is quite dangerous. It does a lot of damage at the start of the game, so you gotta be very careful about that. But yeah, assigning stat points is pretty important. Strength gives you additional damage, which is very important because, you know, if you deal more damage, obviously you finish off enemies faster. But it's more significant than you might think because you can get quite a few more or less hits required for the boss when you get there, depending on your strength. So it's really important to assign your stat points correctly. Now, how you choose to assign your stat points is you can do a few different things. Mostly you want strength, but you can choose different routes. I think Doc is doing a little different where he's using some speed instead of just strength, which means he'll be running a little faster, but his damage will be a little lower. So he's going to use the hammer, which has a higher damage amount, but is slower to swing. As for beginners, it can be, if you are going to run this partial game category, I believe an easy thing to do is just simply dump all your points into strength, but depending on how you want to optimize things, you might want to do things a little differently. Oh, Doc's got to be careful here or he'll die. Dying in this game is not super punishing, so essentially you have your sunlight power, and extra sunlight power goes to the bank, and it's like your money in the game. So when you die, you essentially just restart at the beginning of the room or section, and it takes, I think, half or more of what your money is in the bank. And if you run out of money, they loan you. There's a loan company that loans you money, but yeah, eventually they come and they break your kneecaps if you don't pay them. So you don't want to do that. Ideally, you don't want to die. Right. So the main puzzle for this cathedral is there's a bunch of well, there's a pattern on the ground, and you want to pick up these sort of spheres and put them into depressions in the wall, which Dracodan's doing now. And it'll cause part of the pattern to reappear on the ground. So you want the whole pattern to appear, which is a total of 4 spheres. So you're looking for these spheres in the cathedral, and you're gonna hopefully, you know, you got to look around for them. They're all in different spots. And the sunlight, and in this room for Dracodon, the sunlight helps you detect where your the sphere is in that room. It's a little glint on the floor because it's a hidden chest. I believe he's going to get the spear soon, which is the third weapon type. I think there's more weapon types available, but Your core is your spear, your sword, and your hammer. You do actually get the solar gun back at some point in this game, but it is far less effective than the melee weapons, unfortunately. So now with the spear, you can reach far away things, like that switch far away. So that's pretty good. Get some progression. Oh yes, the trap doors. So Dracodan just did a little skip there, where so trap doors normally will open up right under you as you walk on them, but you can trigger them early, and they'll open up, and you can just avoid falling down. Then they will close, but as they're doing the closing animation, they can't open up immediately underneath you again. So you can do a little trick that Draconan did, and I assume I might see Shenef do as well. You can do a little trick where you run over the trapdoor as it closes, and then it won't open up in time to drop you again, and you can skip having to go all the way around that room, which is quite nice. Hmm. Okay, Doc getting the spear, and Shenef picking up his second orb or sphere. Yes, the cathedral area is well, it's the first dungeon, so it's a bit of a tutorial area, so it'll teach you about how to use your various weapons, like the hammer and the spear. Dracula is doing the book puzzle. There is a puzzle here where you have to check 3 books in a particular order, or no, 4 books in a particular order, and it'll open the door to the next area. No spiders, by the way. The green spiders are poisonous, and you definitely do not want to get poisoned, so you can get quite unlucky in that area and get hit by the spiders, and that's yeah, it's not so good. There are actually a variety of interesting status effects in this game. If you eat rotten food, you get a terrible mosaic effect on the screen that makes it really difficult to see. It does still heal you, but yeah, the mosaic effect is really awful. So definitely don't want to deal with that. I believe poison is just damage over time. And I think there are more status effects, but it's been a little bit since I've played this game, so. And I'm mostly a Boktai 1 speedrunner myself, so I'm a little bit spottier on this one. Status effects, I think, in the first game were only you get set on fire, which and then or you get frozen, which you just mash your D-pad to get out of those status effects. Okay. So I think Doc's heading into the book room now. He's doing the book puzzle. Dracodon's getting the last 2 spheres put in. And Shenif is collecting the lion sphere, which you got to destroy 2 lions in front of the cathedral to get. There's a hint about this inside the cathedral. If you use an element while you're attacking the lions, I think they take 1 less hit to destroy, which is a little bit of speed tech. Okay, so I think Dracodon's got the whole pattern now. Yep, so he's gonna head into the underground and fight the boss. So the boss is I think it's Dunair, which is a giant moth. Now this boss this is, I believe, one of the places where you will see the most amount of lag in this game. So Dunair will spawn some like small caterpillars, and those caterpillars are like they can there can be quite a few of them. So for lag reduction purposes, you might see the runners like dispose of the small caterpillars because they can cause like a real huge amount of slowdown. Now Dunair also is a moth, so the general strategy here is to set the fire in the middle, and then Dunair is gonna look at the fire and be like, "Ooh, pretty." That gives you time to attack the boss. And there, Dracodon's got the boss down. And so once again, like the first game, you've got to drag the coffin all the way back to the pile driver to purify. So I believe that's the blacksmith that Dracodon is talking to in that cutscene. So you have your sword weapons and your spear and your hammer. But you can upgrade them. They're not just static weapons. So you can upgrade them by going to the blacksmith and forging them. You can also just get new weapons in like chests and stuff. But the blacksmith is one of the primary ways. And there's actually a bit of RNG in the full game run where you really want to get a good weapon, but it's RNG whether or not you're able to get it when you go to the blacksmith. So that forging is a very important part of the run, although you won't be able to see it in this partial game category. So the end sign for this category should be when you get Lita to talk to you with the heart symbol in her text box. which you just got to talk to Lita a whole bunch of times after purifying Dunair. Oh, Doc is fighting Dunair right now, and he's having a bit of difficulty with the ads, I believe. Well, Draconon is getting to the pile driver. So purifications are a little bit different in this game as compared to the first game. So you still have to power up the pile driver, and you still want to keep the pile driver together. But instead of the boss being static in the center and then attacking by, doing whatever thing, it has this moving mass, and the boss takes a little bit of damage while it's moving around, but it will take the most damage when it's in the center. So what you want to do is you want the moving mass to you want to hit it back into the center, so it takes the most damage. And so Dracodon did that and got quite the quick fight there. And I believe Doc finished off Dunair, and Jennifer just entering Dunair now. So there, Django on Dracodon's screen goes down and meets Lita. So Lita has come to the town to help you out. Oops, should be switching there. I should have been doing that before. Sorry about that. I'm a bit behind on my audio switching. Okay, so you talk to Lita a bunch of times, and there we go. G-sama heart symbol. And that's time for a Dracodon. Let's see. There's our winner for this race. Congratulations to Dracodon. I'll actually see for a second here. I don't know if I can get him in here earlier. Let me see. Oh. Maybe not, actually. Hold on. Wait a minute, am I in a different... No. Huh, okay, never mind. Oh. Okay, Doc just going into his purification now. And he I think he didn't have enough sunlight, maybe? So it wouldn't let him start the purification. That is the thing. If you don't have enough sunlight, the game will not let you start because you can't power the pile driver. So you need to actually have sunlight for the pile driver to work.
Good.
Hello, Dracodon. Congratulations on your big win.
Yeah, thanks. That was a really clean run. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I made a couple of minor movement mistakes, a couple of minor menuing mistakes, and the boss fight against Dunair wasn't the cleanest, but aside from that, it was a very clean run overall. Like, I'm quite happy with that.
It looked like you got a very good purification.
Yeah, that purification, like in theory, that should be really trivial every time, because it seems like she tries to escape from the same side every time, so you can pretty quickly get her back in the coffin, and then it's just done after that. Like, the purifications later in the game can be a little more tricky, but she just dies so fast in that one that once you get her back in the coffin once, as long as you have maximum sunlight, you can just sit there and it just finishes itself without needing any additional player input.
Ah, I see. Okay. Well, I think Doc's just finishing up now. So yeah, again, you're pretty experienced with this run. What did you... Well, I mean, gave your thoughts on the race for the most part, but
I mean, I don't consider myself that experienced with the run so far. I haven't like tried to learn the other games in the series yet, but this is the game that I grew up with, and this is a game that's been on my to-do list for years as far as learning the speedrun. And this year, I pretty much was just like, all right, I'm going to stop putting it off and learn this properly. And I think I've done a decent enough job so far. I'm like 10 minutes-ish from world record, and my run was by no means super clean. So there's definitely a lot of time to come off it, and when I have the time to like get back to doing this game properly, I will definitely be gunning to try and take world record for sure.
yes, well, I wish you luck in that endeavor, and yeah, I certainly know from my own attempts to take a look at this game, it's quite a tough one.
Yeah, it's just a very punishing run that demands a lot of discipline, is what I would say. Like, there are certain segments which are kind of difficult to do clean, and this is a run that really demands that you don't make a lot of egregious errors, because the money budgeting is pretty tight. So if you make a lot of accidental deaths, you have great difficulty in just being able to finish the run in good fashion, because you really just don't have a lot of room for maneuver in that regard. So like I say, it just requires you to be quite disciplined and not make a lot of big errors. This is a run that's more so focused on just not necessarily going as fast as possible, but just playing as clean as possible and avoiding making mistakes, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now I saw, I'm not sure if you made other allocations with the stat points, but I think everyone did slightly different stat point allocations. Do you have any comments on what sort of different builds you could go for?
Yeah, so when I started learning the game, the route notes were just to put points into strength early on, which makes sense. There's a lot of combat and you want to kill bosses as quickly as possible. I do lose a bit of time throughout this segment of the game that we just raced on the combat segments because my hits are a little weaker. That's part of the reason why my boss fight wasn't as good as it could be, because it just takes a bit longer and it makes the energy management a bit more difficult. But by contrast, I instead put my points into agility early on, because the way that movement works in this game is that your movement speed is like one of 9 categories, and it's just directly tied to your agility stat. And then that is penalized by the armor that you're wearing. So the heavier your armor, the slower you move. So we just spend most of the game wearing no armor at all, and then your movement speed is based purely on your agility stat. So I get my agility stat to the next movement breakpoint, which is 17, and then I put maximum investment into strength. And in my opinion, because of how much movement there is in the early section of the game, I think it's well worth the investment, even if you lose a bit of time in the fights themselves taking a bit longer. You just spent so much time running around that it really adds up quite quickly. And I would be very surprised if it isn't objectively faster.
Yeah, I can imagine. And especially with the changes to like speed nuts and stuff. And
Yeah, it's something that is far less important in the second half of the run once you get access to the dash ability and you can just travel as fast as possible at all times pretty much. But for the first half of the game, it makes a big difference to be able to move slightly faster. It amounts to a surprising amount of time save over like the first like 40-50 minutes of the run.
yeah, so I can imagine, especially with I don't know what the thresholds are, but it's like I think your budget for stat points is pretty tight too, eh?
Yeah, there's a couple of segments of the game where you're trying to reach certain amounts of stat allocation. The first big one is before you fight Ringo in the Remains, the second main dungeon of the game. You want to be at a specific level so that you can pump enough strength points to kill him in 2 cycles. Because if you don't have enough strength and he's barely alive after the second round of hitting him inside Sabata's black hole, he transforms into the bats and wastes a ton of time. So the idea is to be able to 2-cycle that. And then pretty much directly after that, before you go into Dark City, you grind EXP on the Dark Vines and gives you a bunch more levels and points to put into strength before you fight Cheyenne in Dark City.
Hello again.
Yes.
Sorry.
Welcome,
Yo,
Doc.
Doc.
Hey, GG!
Hey,
GG, dude.
congratulations on your second place. Very, very good. I don't know if
Thanks.
you had. Sorry, my
Uh,
voice started to go.
yeah,
You had some difficulty with the boss fight, I think.
yeah, I messed up the boss fight a little, and well, to be fair, I had my controller disconnect at the start of the race as well.
Oh dear.
But it's good now at least.
So what are your thoughts on the race?
It was pretty interesting. I think it was still pretty close at some point. Like mostly, well, the wall got the whole part mostly.
I see. I see. And I think you are using a updated route for speed and strength, like stat point allocation. Because I was talking about this with Dracodan just now about how you have different ways you could allocate stats.
Oh yeah, I was trying most recent changes from I think it was from Dragodan actually.
Oh yeah,
think
you are using
that's what you-
17 Agi. Yeah, I didn't comment too much on, well, I didn't comment at all on how like the other racers did because I just don't have those views up during the race, unfortunately. So I'm sorry to not be able to comment on how Shinef and Doc did.
Oh, no
It's
worries
fine.
about that. I just find it interesting that because I know, I mean, I'm not very experienced with this game, but when I was doing the race for our weekly races, I was learning the route for the weekly races that we do. I just put everything into strength, so I found it interesting that you had different allocations.
It is definitely viable. It helps significantly when you are fighting Dunyer.
Tell me that worked. Didn't work. Alright, well, gotta do it again. Okay, so here we go with Boktai 3. This game again is a little bit different from the previous one, but it's still a action RPG. So it does still have like stat points and stuff. You could see there the players were entering a password. So they did this in Boktai 2 as well. I didn't mention it then, but the passwords basically it gives you some bonuses to your stats, and then you get a bunch of items. Most notably, you get a speed nut and sun and moon cards, which make your they can refill your health and energy. So that's pretty good. I'm not sure if I have someone doing the sync on these races, so I think I might have to do that myself this time. What is that? That's about 4 seconds off. So did that work? Well, I guess I won't see until later. So yeah, the game starts with introducing you to a character we've never seen before, not in this not in this race anyway, but it would have been introduced to him. It's this is Django, our main character. This is his brother, Sabata, and there's the plot of this game is basically he got turned evil. I mean, he was evil in the first game, then he got turned good, and then now he's evil again in the third game. So that's unfortunate, but you know, what are you gonna do? So basically, I think the beginning here is sort of to introduce you to some of the mechanics of the game. One big key thing is that the solar gun is back, so you actually do get to use the solar gun again. While the solar gun is back, they also have access to the weapons of Boktai 2, so that's like it adds a layer of sort of that's sort of synced. It adds another layer of complexity, I guess, for you to be able to work with there. So at the beginning of the game, Django is dead and he's buried in the ground, and or something like that. He got tricked into getting buried in the ground and he's got trapped underground. It's terrible. It's unfortunate. But now that you're trapped underground, you got to get out. So the first little dungeon of the game will be trying to get out of this underground area. It's going to be the tutorial area. It's going to introduce you to the different stuff that you're doing with the solar gun and the weapons that you've got. Now you can see they changed the art style for this game. So now Django's got some spiffy new sprites. They did change them a little bit in the second game, but it's quite a dramatic change for the third game. But yeah, you wake up underground and Django has lost his memory, so he doesn't know anything about anything anymore. But Yep, he doesn't know anything about anything anymore except the fact that he's got to kill vampires. I mean, that's just. I mean, come on, that's what you got to do. So you start with the solar gun, and I believe you maybe pick up a sword, but I think for this partial game category, you're mostly just using the gun. And so the category itself that they are doing is going to be Purify the Count %. So the first main dungeon in the game is something. It's like an abandoned town, or lifeless town, I think is the name of it. And the lifeless town dungeon has the Count from the first game. He's back, and he's the boss of the lifeless town dungeon. So the idea is you kill the Count and purify him, and then that's just the end of the category. So a lot of tutorial. I think of the 3 games, the third game has the longest tutorial. Don't quote me on that, but I feel like that's the way it is. Okay, so the runners just picked up I believe this is the wizard frame. So frames are back from the first game. And the wizard frame, you have your base frame where you shoot just one bullet, but the wizard frame is like, if you ever played Contra, it's like the spreader gun, basically. So you shoot 5 shots in a spread pattern. But, of course, if you're really close to the enemy, all of the spreader shots will hit the same enemy, and it'll do a lot more damage. So the wizard frame is pretty solid upgrade to your damage when you're really up close. They'll be picking up, I think, at least one more frame in this category. I'm not entirely sure of the stat allocation, but I think they go for speed. The strength of your weapon damage is dependent on strength, again, I'm pretty sure, but the strength of your gun damage has nothing to do with anything and does not scale at all with strength. So you're totally fine to just put all your stats into speed if you're not going to use the sword weapons. If you're just going to stick with the gun, you can put all your stats points into speed, and you don't have to worry about... you can just use the gun to deal the most damage. I think weapons are slightly slower in Boktai 3 than they were in Boktai 2. And I'm not sure, but you maybe don't get access to this. This I am a little vague on, actually. Oh, yes, and they changed it now. So you have swords. But in addition to swords, you also have... like this, in addition to the base sword, you just whack things with it to deal damage. Swords now can break boxes. Whereas in the previous game, it was just hammers that could break boxes. So once they are exiting this first little dungeon, like tutorial dungeon area, yeah, they'll encounter this. It's an armored knight boss. And they switch back to the fighter frame, which is your basic frame that you start the game with, because I guess the spreader doesn't work quite as well for this boss. You have to remember energy consumption is different per frame because you shoot more bullets. It costs more energy, so that also might be a factor here. Once they get out of the dungeon, they will be... I'm not sure if you have to do it for the first one, but anyway, they'll be heading to the town from the second game, San Miguel. That's the town they were in. But now they'll be heading to the town from the second game. It's got an updated look, and instead of walking around town, you basically just select what building you want to go to, and then like from a map screen, and then it just sends you there. And yes, so this is the silliest thing. Django got sealed underground, but then some dude just landed on the grave and broke it, and that broke the seal, so now you're out of there. This guy, his name is Trinity. He came from the future where Django... He came from a future where Django did not escape from the grave. And everyone died, and it's a horrible future where everyone gets eaten alive by immortals. But because he went back in time, he fell on the grave and broke it, and now Django's out. And yes, I do believe the sequel to this game, Lunar Nights, is it's one that is in the comes off of the timeline where Django did not escape and was underground forever, and the Immortals won or something like that. So we got our introduction to the Immortal characters, and now Sabata is on their side for some reason that you don't get explained until I think halfway to 3/4 through this game. So, unfortunately, Boktai 3 was a Japanese exclusive game. It didn't come out in the US. Boktai 1 and 2 got US releases, but Boktai 3, I think at that point the series was maybe not selling as well or something in America, so it didn't come out. The third game didn't come out, which is a little unfortunate. The third game's quite a good one. So there is a translation patch available, fan translation patch. So check that out if you haven't played the game. And the translation patch does work with the solar sensor patch if you are, doing that. So yeah, you head to San Miguel. Okay, yeah. So you just go to San Miguel, and you can meet some of the characters from the second game that are back. But unfortunately, Django is hit his head on a rock and doesn't remember anything. Oh yeah, and then this feller here is like, "Hey man, I heard you like coffins, so I got you this coffin, and here you go. Your coffin turns into a bike now because instead of walking, why would you walk to a dungeon when you could ride on a some kind of crazy solar fueled bike that has guns installed on it?" So this is going to be the there's going to be a travel segment when they're going to the first dungeon there. So in that travel segment, they're going to get they're going to ride the bike, and it's like a bike race thing, and while traveling. So that's quite a departure from the typical gameplay. I guess they thought they had to break it up when they did that. Oh yes, and so the dash, introduced in the second game, although you didn't get to see it, but the dash move is basically a magic spell that doesn't really cost a lot of energy or anything, but it just makes you go fast. So you tap the magic button, and it just makes you go fast. You can essentially just spam the button and you'll just run really, really fast. So it's fairly decent for that, but it is a little taxing on your hands after a while, I find. So you gotta go around and visit everyone in the town, I think. Oh, and this guy will upgrade your bike in the garage. It's a new building that they added into this game. Your bike can have a whole bunch of different parts. You can upgrade it with like new chassis, new gun type, and each thing has different energy consumption and a whole bunch of other stuff like that. So you can pick up different parts in different areas around the game. Oh, and Lita here is she gives you shock therapy to try and get you to remember. Unfortunately, I don't think it works, but you get slapped in this game too. But Lita gives you a bunch of items. She helps you out. And you just immediately sell all of it. And buy some bananas. A lot of bananas, I guess. So much the same as the second game. Bananas, how they work is like you have the same thing with stats where the bananas essentially just set you to your highest strength value, and strength again allows you to pull coffin faster. But the thing that's important to note there is that in the second game, strength was important because you were using the weapons, but in the third game, it's not as important because you won't be using the weapons as much. You'll be mostly focusing on using the solar gun. So you just use the bananas for mostly just pulling the coffin. All right, so our players have entered the bike race segment. So it's like a side-scrolling, kind of like an auto-scroller, although in the top right, you can see the progress bar that basically tells you how far away you are from the dungeon. So as you progress, you can pick up little pickups that give you extra energy that you can spend on making your bike go faster. And yeah, the undead, for some reason, the undead have their own bikes. Not really sure how that works. I guess bikes are just really popular these days. And so the undead have their own bikes. You can destroy them if you like, but it's not really necessary. Yeah. You can do ramming attacks or shoot, but it's not really super important to destroy the undead there. I don't believe it's ever explained why the undead have their own bikes, but yeah. Okay, so Doc has arrived at the lifeless town. He starts speeding around. So this is essentially a town that's been attacked and kind of taken over by the undead. So there's a whole bunch of skeletons around and spiders and other monsters, I guess. I think what the players are searching for now is they want the fire lens. So they currently only have the solar lens, which but they're looking for the fire lens so that they can. And there it is. Doc just picked up the fire lens. So the fire lens, again, like the first game, just gives you the fire element. on your solar gun, which you need to light these torches for these puzzles. So. I believe I'll be picking up one more frame as well for the boss fight. It's a more powerful and damaging frame. So here you actually meet Trinity. Like Django actually meets Trinity for the first time. He's kind of a hopeless guy. Yeah, he's not very good at being an adventurer or whatever it is he tries to do, but you know, you help him out kind of. Right, so attacking enemies from the front does a certain amount of damage, but attacking enemies from behind does way more damage. So there's kind of the stealth aspect again. Like the first game had a lot of usage of stealth, and getting caught by enemies was important that you didn't do that. And you get more rewards for not getting caught. But the second and third game kind of abandoned the stealth aspect. So I'd say the only remaining aspect of the stealth is I think you can still knock on walls to attack to get enemies to come near you. And also if you hit from behind, you do more damage. I'm pretty sure that's the only remaining aspect of the stealth. The alert system does not exist anymore in the second and third games. Okay, Doc fighting the, I think this is like a mid-boss. Is another one of these armored knights. Oh, he's got a spin to win move. Generally, for these knights, it is pretty beneficial to stay, you know, a little bit further away from them. Although the solar gun is nice for this category, you can not have to invest in strength or anything. For the main full game category, once you get access to forging, and you can more seriously forge weapons, you will probably just switch to using swords or something, or like weapons like that, because those weapons do way more damage. Like the forged weapons with enchantments do way more damage than the solar gun. Like you can like triple your damage. So unfortunately the solar gun does not, it's not super useful, but what can you do? Now in the second game, they introduced Django gets turned into like half a vampire. So he has access to vampire powers, and he can like suck HP out of enemies and do lots of damage and stuff. He gained access to that power in the second game, and now it's back in the third game. And it actually does like a lot of damage and is really useful against some of the bosses later. But for just this first boss fight, I don't think you really use it. And here we have mummies again. I said it briefly in the first game, but once again, mummies are blind and they work based on sound. So if you want to avoid them, you gotta be quiet and stealthy, right? Generally, it doesn't matter too much here, but and I don't think I mentioned it, but in all three games, the basic zombie enemy called a Bok, if it walks into direct sunlight, they actually just get vaporized. So having sunlight outside is sometimes pretty useful to get rid of any bunks that might be wandering around. And yes, the knocking mechanic, if you knock on a wall, it makes a sound. It's mostly a stealth mechanic, but it can be useful like for the one puzzle that the runners just did there, where you knock on a wall and lure an enemy over to a switch so that you can then exit the room. Okay, so the third game had this weird kind of system where, so you want to find a key, right, to progress. In the second game, in the first game or whatever, it would just be find the key and progress. In the third game, it actually gave you missions. Like it has this thing like mission start that tells you exactly what you needed to do. So I guess if players were getting a little bit more lost, it's a good way to guide them in the right direction. It's a change that they made. Okay, so I believe Doc's heading into the Count boss fight. And here he is back again. Same guy from the first game. Yep, Trinity comes in, tries to fight the Count, immediately gets destroyed, and then you fight the Count yourself. Okay, so... Oh, yes, you can shoot open the windows. The windows in this room are blocked by bats. You can shoot open the windows to get sunbeams inside for the to have a better time fighting the Count. That gives you access to these veins of sunlight. But otherwise, you pretty much just want to shoot the Count. You could optionally get another frame here that allows you to shoot rings, I believe, and it does way more damage, but it looks like these players did not get that. And they're just sticking with it. It might take some time, so it might not be necessary for this category. Not super familiar with Boktai 3. Okay, so you get your coffin. Now your bike then transforms into a coffin that you use to purify the immortals again. So you once again you got to drag it all the way out to the place where you can use a pile driver. And because you haven't been upgrading strength, you just use the banana to max out your strength so that you can drag the coffin at the highest speed. Now, I didn't mention this in when I was talking in 1 and 2, but so if you leave the coffin for long enough, it will start shaking, and then it will actually start slowly creeping back to where you fought the immortal. So you generally don't want to leave a coffin unattended for too long. And a mechanic they introduced in this game is there's a section, like if there's long extended to dragging the coffin sections, they'll have these little spots that are like sunlight spots, and essentially those sunlight spots, you can leave the coffin there and go away save the game, leave, and do something, and then the coffin won't have moved away from you the spot that you left it in if you leave it in that sunlight spot. Whereas in the second game and the first game, if you save and quit, the coffin will end up moving all the way back to where you fought the immortal. Yeah, but the players are just dragging the coffin here. You can see as they pass over the little sunlight spot, the coffin starts glowing. Show that it's locked in place there and it won't move. I think Doc is coming up on the pile driver here. Yep. So purification mostly works the same as the other two games. I think purification is more similar to is the like the same way that the second game is, but it's actually far easier. I think the purifications in this game are easier than the second games, and even possibly the first game's purifications, because the bosses do way less damage, whereas they could be potentially quite difficult in the first or the second game rather. Okay, and there Doc has finished the purification, so there we go. He's congratulations to Doc on his big win there, his big finish. And Shenef's just finishing up his purification, and you can see how the like enemy dark matter, like the boss, it can sort of like damage the pile driver and turn it off. So you need to turn it back on to get more damage, right? More pile driver stacks attacking is more damage. And there's Shenef done. And all right, that's it. So congratulations to our runners here, and yeah, that's the 3 Boktai races for our partial game categories. Oh. I'll see if I can get the runners in here for one last interview, and then we'll close it out.
Hello again.
So congratulations on your win.
Thank you. That was really close.
It was a pretty close race, yeah. So once again, what are your thoughts on this this race?
It was very fun. Boktai 3 is it's a very fun game, honestly. Definitely my favorite. And yeah, that race was very close. It was really fun as well, honestly. I think overall it went alright. There were a few differences compared to the any-person route.
Yes, I
And
think
it was
I saw in the any percent route you pick up an extra frame for your gun that you use on the
yeah.
count.
Yeah,
You
basically we pick up the hope frame, which it does a lot of damage. It has a massive hitbox, and it's
Yeah.
like we use it mostly for a skip end game. But since in this race we don't reach that dungeon, we skipped it. But turns out, at least for me, I'm used to using it for the count fight because it's just that good. So it was really interesting to do the count fight in the old-fashioned way again. Haven't done that in at least 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. And I believe you were this was your first Boktai game that you speedran?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. That goes a long way. Like that was like really really long ago. It was back when the Town Network community wasn't even there yet. It did not exist at the time.
Yes, and you were I think you were a big part of the starting the community up, right? Back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. If I remember correctly, back in the day, it was mostly me, Duke, which is Boktai 3D slash Core 5 main manager developer, and we had, let's see, Earthly Skies, which is other Boktai 1 runner, was also there, and Koa, which is also known as Dark Sun, the Boktai 2 world holder, he was also in our little community. Back then, we were still using Skype,
Oof.
and
Ooh.
yeah, it was cool. We were talking, and eventually we switched to Discord at some point. And that's also when we started to have. Well, we had bigger plans for Boktai, but it took a while to really get started on things because we had so much to do, and we were like 4 people.
Yeah. Getting the word out there is not that easy.
Yeah, I remember back then the goal was getting Boktai into HEDQ to make it popular again, but that's honestly, well, it didn't really work out, at least for now.
Now I was talking about this a little bit, but so you don't need to worry about strength as much in this partial game category, right? Because you just use the gun for the first area. Would your
Yeah,
stat
basically,
allocation would your stat allocation be any different in the full game run, or would you still just do speed?
well, basically, so in this game, unlike in Boktai 2, you only have 2 stats, which are HP, Spirit, and Orator Energy and Strength. I think points or getting points from cards for strength actually increase your coffin carrying speed when you're using a banana. For this category, it doesn't matter much, but still, that stat also increase for the damage. In this race, we both forgot to buy a stock sword. But normally, I believe you can reach the level to use it before the count, and it would have been a better thing to use for the count fights, definitely.
Okay.
It's only a matter of a few seconds, but still.
Now I'm not super familiar with Boktai 3. but so I wouldn't know exactly. But are there any particular strategies that you use for the bike segments?
Well, let's see. Bike segments. Well, when you start the race, you gotta be holding the well, you're gonna be holding the air button at all times, unless you need to dodge a rock at the last moment, because that's the button used for accelerating. And then you press L to use boost, which costs energy. Starting the race while holding both buttons is that's just how it has to be. You gotta go all out, like a true biker. And then basically you want to, ideally you want to dodge skeletons and avoid bumping into things to keep HP and to keep your speed at max.
Yeah.
Also, you want to get all the energy capsules on the way, because usually one capsule is a boost and a half, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah.
Like bike race, I'd say, except for the first race, like they are actually pretty hard to get right, like to get optimally, because you really need to remember where everything is, and it's easy to mess up and die during this race, especially later on.
Yeah, I remember when I first played this game, I couldn't figure out the bike races at all, and I just continually died in them.
Yeah, it doesn't really give you a tutorial. You're supposed to talk to NPC, but you can just skip everything, I think. Also, there's like when you get to White Forest, there's a massive difficulty spike when it comes to bike race. And I think most people casually, especially they were like me. They basically they barely switch parts on their bike, which is really bad for tight race because it has ice on it. So you just usually slide into a rock and die.
Yeah.
It's like that race is where the game basically tells you either you care about your bike and you keep going, or you don't and you keep resetting. It's really interesting.
So
As a
any...
bike race, you can actually unlock a lot of stuff, like extra bike race as well, and during some of them you get to race against Sabata or Mega Man.exe as well,
Oh,
or some
for
of the other characters.
some bonus races, eh?
Yeah, it's really cool, honestly.
So any other final thoughts on anything else about the race or the game that you want to share?
Well, I've already mentioned crossover mode, so I'm not gonna explain it again. I think one explanation has been enough.
Yeah.
But let's see. Well, I'd like to give some special thanks to well, you for conducting speedgaming.
Yeah, well.
Because honestly, that was really fast. I was surprised. I would like to thank speedgaming for accepting us, for letting us do this. I really appreciate it, honestly. I can't thank you guys enough. I'd like to give a shout out and a full thanks to Boktai community overall, whether it is speedrunning one or the main community overall. Shoutouts to well, you again for contacting Speedgaming. Shoutouts to everyone who participated. Shoutouts to everyone watching as well, and shoutouts to all the Boktai fans and all the Boktai speedrunning community fans that have been watching us during this. Also, shoutouts to the Kura 5 people, community and devs and so on, for also helping us with keeping Boktai alive in their own way. Which reminds me, if anyone wants to play Boktai, they should also give a try. They should also give Kura 5 a try. It's a really good game. a really good Boktai fan game. I really recommend it.
Yes, Kura 5, it plays just like Boktai, right?
It's a mix between I'd say Boktai 1 and Lunar Nights, mostly because it's mostly inspired by Lunar Nights, as far as I know.
Yes, but you still
And
have
also, yes, sorry.
the same basic kind of gameplay where you use the solar gun and then you drag coffins and purify immortals, that sort of thing. Except you also have your it's two characters, right? You have it's like a solar power character, and then it's a vampire, I think, right?
Yeah, it's basically like Lunar Nights. You have one character that's mostly about sunlight and playing during daylight, another one that's like melee and mostly plays during night.
So I believe
Also, yes,
I believe it has a plugin that will find your local weather information, and then it will you can if you play online with online connectivity, you can actually use your local weather patterns if you want for your solar sensor and night time sensor.
yes, that's what I was gonna mention actually. Basically, Core 5, you can play it in two ways. You can disable Wither Sync, and then the game will manage the sunlight amount on its own, which is really good. Or you can turn on Wither Sync, and the way that works is it's gonna be checking on weather info, weather data in your area, and it will adjust the sunlight amount based on your based on the data, weather data from your area, which is really cool. It's like going outside to play Boktai, but without having to go outside and overheat.
Yeah.
It's honestly a really good idea, and it just turns out that it also works really well overall, especially for people like me, which lives in an area where going outside and using an actual Boktai cartridge, you will get barely any sunlight. But when using weather data, it turns out that I get enough sunlight to play properly.
Yeah. Okay,
Also,
well,
yeah, Core 5 has many secrets. Yes. Sorry.
uh, yeah, if you've watched the races today and you're interested at all in Boktai speedrunning community, I recommend that you check it out. The Taio Network. If you go to speedrun.com and go to any of the Boktai game pages, there should be a link to the Discord there. If you're interested at all in doing Boktai speedruns, I definitely recommend them. I mean, obviously, as a speedrunner of them myself, I think they're pretty good.
Honestly, anyone that's interested in Boktai, I recommend at least checking the leaderboards because we have a patch that will help you play casually on emulators, which I recommend using if you don't want to spend $1 billion on cartridge and stuff. And if you're interested in Boktai even a little bit, even not for speedrunning, I recommend joining the Taio Network Discord community. The link is also on the leaderboards.
Yeah, and it's some of the games can get pretty technical with their roots, but there's always people around to ask for help if you want to learn. And yeah, we've got some strat pages for Boktai 1, 2, 3, even Lunar Nights, and there's been some work done on Kura 5 as well. So if you're interested at all in these games, I definitely recommend you check it out. And
Yeah.
thanks again to Speed Gaming for hosting us for the anniversary race. It's great to get the word out there a little bit on showing people Boktai.
Yeah, honestly, massive shout outs to Speed Gaming for allowing us to do this.
So I guess that's pretty much it.
Alright, then. Well, thanks everyone for playing, for joining the fun, for watching, and so on. Keep the sun always in your heart, and may the sun be with you all.
Yes, indeed. I regret I wasn't able to take part in the race today because we didn't have a commentator, but yeah, it was good races, good 3 races. That's good.
Also,